What's going on, Bulls fans? I'm Mike Bunt, joined alongside Maniac for a special Thursday edition of Bullet Points. Unfortunately, it's just going to be Zach on audio today. You're not going to be able to see him in his crazy takes, but you'll definitely hear him. Zach, how you doing today?
Doing well. We needed a couple extra days for the homecoming hangover that we unfortunately have. But with that said, weather's still great in Western New York, and there's a lot to be positive about still with this UB football team. So looking forward to getting into some Bull talk.
So let's get it started right with the homecoming loss against Western Michigan. Bulls drop a 48-41 game. They were down 18 points early in the third quarter, come all the way back, tie it up before losing. There was a controversial fourth down at the end of the game. A lot of Bulls fans thought that they had to stop, mostly because the sticks didn't even go all the way to the 35-yard line after a fair catch following a kickoff, which means it definitely should have been short based on where the ball was spotted. Never really got much of an explanation. Pete Lembo said he wasn't told much by the officials either, so kind of just have to live with that. But the Bulls fall to 4-3, 2-1 overall MAC play. Some concern about the defense against WMU, but on the positive side, the best offensive performance we've seen all season. CJ Agbana throwing for over 300 yards. Zach, what were your takeaways from the loss against Western Michigan?
Mike, if I had told you they dropped 41 points in this game, was there a percentage point that they even lost?
Like 2 to 3%.
Yeah, exactly. Unbelievable. It's like you already made the couple of the broad stroke takes for sure. I mean, this was an embarrassing performance for the defense. I don't know if it was the scheme or whatnot, but truthfully, early that first half and early in the second, Mike, I mean, Western Michigan, you want to talk about dictating what they wanted to do, be able to get whatever they wanted to get. They were. On the flip side, I like the offense. And the other thing that you can take away from this game, it's a 48-41 loss, and it was potentially in the big picture devastating for MAC championship hopes. We'll see. There's still a lot of season left, so you can't say that yet. But the good thing is, like you said, they were able to overcome an 18-point deficit. I think if you or if anyone had talked about this team going into this game and told them they were down by 18, that was game over. They were able to come back, and they were able to do so with a little bit of composure. So I thought that was nice to see. This team still has a lot to work at. But if you want to take a positive out of homecoming, coming back from 18 down with a lot of game left definitely was that.
Yeah, the offense is definitely moving a step in the right direction. Defensively, that definitely wasn't a great performance. And there's really three players on WMU that killed UB. Quarterback Hayden Wolf had 3 touchdown passes. He had a great game. He was finding Bosma all the time, who had 3 touchdown receptions, and then Jaden Nixon, 3 touchdown runs. So things were in trios for Western Michigan, and that's how they got it done. CJ Agbana, like I said, over 300 yards passing. That is a positive. Pete Lembo did say after the game that they were able to do some basic things with their passing offense that they really haven't had any success with this year prior to that point. So at least they're starting to make some progress where they feel comfortable doing certain things through the air that you would say maybe are routine for other schools, but for UB have taken some time to figure out. But not all is lost. UB tied for second in the conference at 2-1 with plenty of teams, including their next opponent, Ohio University. And one thing about this Ohio team, they cannot throw the ball. So that kind of plays into UB's defensive's hands a little bit because they've been really good against the run. What are your first thoughts about moving forward from Western Michigan and your first thoughts about Ohio on Saturday afternoon?
Well, you got to move past Western Michigan, just like you move past the Northern Illinois win, just like you move past the Toledo win. All glory fleeting. You know what Lembo's going to say about that. The thing that stuck to me with Ohio is that, we get pamphlets and we get some paperwork with all the stats and how they match up. And realistically, despite both teams being 4-3, as shocking as this might be to you, Ohio kind of outranks UB in a lot of these ranks. They have a little bit more firepower on offense, and they've, likewise allowed a little bit less yardage and less points on defense. Actually, maybe a little bit more points. But point being, it just kind of stuck out to me that Ohio kind of outranks UB in a lot of things. But we both know that Ohio has been an incredibly tough place for UB to play. And that made it a little bit surprising to me that they're only 6-point underdogs overall.
Yeah, Peterson Stadium has been a house of horrors for UB football over the last decade plus. Just a place that the Bulls don't win at. And it is kind of ironic because we'll get into my history with this game in a little bit, but it is a little ironic because Ohio fans right now are complaining about how their offense is horrible, how they can't generate anything, how they're struggling to really get explosive plays through the air. And it sounds a lot like what I hear from UB fans when they talk about the Bulls offense, but it is important context to point out that UB is kind of going from a 3-9 team that's now feeling better about themselves because they're sitting at 4-3, while Ohio has back-to-back 10-win seasons, and their quarterback from the last 3-4 years is now the starting quarterback at Indiana, and he's one of the top 6 guys in the betting odds to win the Heisman this year. So
that's absolutely insane. I don't care who you are, and I don't care that Tyree was, at one point probably a top 10 Heisman guy, maybe 4 to 6 weeks in. Curtis Rourke being in the Heisman contention is crazy, but he's proven it. I mean, that win, he was running it up against Nebraska.
He did get hurt late, but so he did miss the second half, but they were already killing him by the time he left the game. And it's crazy. We talk about Mac having good players. Like, we obviously remember Khalil Mack at UB, and there's been plenty of great guys throughout the years. You're talking about Ohio, who has Curtis Rourke transfer to Indiana, and then he's suddenly a Heisman candidate. They had Mark Sears in basketball, who was an All-American last year on a Final Four Nate Oates coach team, and now is Jay Billis's preseason National Player of the Year. Like, they talk about a school that is probably like, damn, I wish we didn't have NIL and transfers and all this other crap going on. They would have had 2 of the best people in the nation, and yet they probably never would have gotten any of the acknowledgement had they not moved elsewhere.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's, first off, that's why we do what we do. We champion the MAC, right? I mean, you've been doing it with Dolak all year. But yeah, it's very unfortunate for Ohio. I don't know what the solution is for, your MAC programs and just your ones that really suffer from the transfer portal. I do think it's on the programs to kind of do the same thing. We know that we've seen, staffs, for example, like Nate Oates' crew. They were coming from the JUCOs. You got to find ways to get creative with how you're going to get your personnel. But yeah, it has to be a little sour if you're a Bobcat fan, seeing all these former Bobcats have success. But with that said, all things taken into consideration, 6-point dog. Ohio doesn't blow the doors off you. Doesn't have anything. I don't know. This seems like a game where they could Lembo it up a little bit.
I feel like this is going to be a close game, in my personal opinion. I'll be in Athens. I'm not covering this game for UB. I'm taking my wife down there. I'm going to be sitting in the stands, neutral. That's for all the UB fans.
It's the bunt bowl, people. Strap in.
This is the bunt bowl. I went to Ohio University. I'm not going to hide that, UB fans. I went to Ohio. I cheer on the Bobcats. I love Ohio University. I feel the same love towards University at Buffalo, the Bulls. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm cheering for one or the other. This is always the game I hate every year, but an opportunity to go down to Athens, show my wife around campus. She's only been there one time when I was there with a couple other people. So this is kind of an opportunity to kind of enjoy a fall day down in Southern Ohio. But I think
I'll tell you what, if an Ohio alum and a Cuse alum hosting the show for multiple episodes doesn't get Rob Ryan back, then nothing will. That's all I'm saying.
I know. Where is Rob? I mean, Maniac, talking about Syracuse, they got a pretty big game tonight against Pitt that I cannot wait for. And there's some talk about Kyle McCord being a high draft pick in this year's draft, maybe a second, first round type caliber guy. This is a big game for the Cuse tonight.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That talk is a little bit shocking to me, even with the most optimistic Cuse fans. But yeah, I think what Fran Brown does really well is just,
I think we lost you for a second, Maniac. So I'll just keep talking. And if
UB didn't get into the top. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, gotcha. My bad. UB didn't get into the top. That both teams are kind of exceeding.
I think you went in and out a little bit. No worries.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're just going in and out a little bit, but I think I got a little bit of the point of what you were saying. And Maniac, talking about this matchup, I agree with a lot of things that you were saying earlier about could this be a Pete Lembo type game where they get a win against a team that they're underdogs on the road against, and I think it's a possibility. The main reason why is the strength of this Ohio team is their running game. Parker Navarro does not have a strong arm. He's not going to be able to beat you downfield with his arm. So I think what that does is it plays into UB's defense. Ohio can run the option. Their starting running back, Anthony Tyus, is going to be out from what I've read. So they're going to be playing with Ricky Hunt, who's a good player, was solid in their bowl game last year, setting a school record for touchdowns in the game. But I don't know if Ohio will be able to get it done in the air against this UB defense. And on the counter side, I think it's also going to be a struggle for the UB offense going up against this Bobcats defense. I could see this being a low-scoring game in the low 20s.
Yeah, the more I look at the peripherals on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, this has sloppy MAC game kind of written all over it. I think you hit the nail on the head there. But with that said, sloppiness in this game, even though, like you said, Ohio has been a house of horrors, I got to think that benefits UB in this situation, right?
I would say so because UB wants to play a low-scoring game generally. I think Ohio is fine either way, but I think low-scoring game definitely more of a benefit for UB if they were going to ask what type of game they were going to play style-wise. Yes, they just played a shootout last week, but I think in the final stretch of that game, you could see Western Michigan kind of took the momentum up until the fourth down, I'll say quote unquote stop that was ruled a first down. But I would say the keys for UB, you got to find a way to contain Parker Navarro in the run game. While he might not be the best passing quarterback, the guy has some wheels. He's elusive. He can make things happen. He destroyed CMU a few weeks ago. This Ohio offense has not had a ton of bright moments so far this year. They struggled against Morgan State. They were really bad last week against Miami, Ohio. They couldn't do anything against Kentucky. That makes sense. But I've seen them in person twice already this year. I've seen UB 3 times. The 2 games I've seen Ohio were at Syracuse, at Kentucky, and they were not super bright moments for the Bobcats overall, outside of a few moments against Syracuse. But I think that the UB defense will be able to contain this Bobcats offense for the most part. But will they be able to score? I'm not sure. This Ohio defense is good. I don't think they are great like they were last year, but they're definitely still one of the decent defenses in the MAC. I have to see CJ Agbana throw the ball consistently well on the road before I'm going to have confidence that UB is going to be able to score points. This is still a UB offense that struggles mightily away from UB Stadium.
I'm not going to say the season is over with a loss here, Mike, because I know that's a little bit of an exaggeration. They would be 4-4, but this is a big game for where you're going to end up in this first Lembo season, in my opinion, because if you win this game 5-3, you get a little defensive swagger back. I think the MAC is still your oyster, and you're 1 win away from basically guaranteeing a 500 season in the first year. You lose, it's another road loss. You're coming off the homecoming loss where your defense got pounded, and everything's kind of up in the air. So this is a big get right spot for UB, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Just looking at this right now, you enter today. They're 1 game back of Western, who's in first place all by themselves in the MAC, and then you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-way tie for second. If UB wins this, you can realistically look forward to the rest of the schedule and say they're going to have a chance to be in the MAC title game. You go at Akron the next week. So you win this game this week to get to 5-3. Then you should beat Akron. You're talking 6-3. Home against Ball State, chance to get to 7-3. At Eastern, and then versus Kent. You're probably looking at a possibility of an 8-win team, 6-2. You already have wins over Toledo in Northern Illinois, so you'll have a tiebreaker against those 2 teams who are likely going to be right around that 6-2 mark as well, unless Toledo wins out and goes 7-1. But if you lose to Ohio, then it gets a little more complicated because 5-3 is probably not going to get it done in the current format of basically needing to be in the top 2 overall in the MAC, not having divisions anymore. So I think this is a must win realistically if you want to talk about MAC championship potential. But even if you lose, it's not like the season is over from let's have other goals in mind.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I was at. This is the MAC breaking point for this team, this game. And I think you agree, right?
100%. Yeah, like if you want to win the MAC or have a chance at winning the MAC, you probably got to win this. The way I look at it right now, I would say Akron and Kent State are absolutely should be wins for UB. So that gets them to the bowl eligibility. Ball State, I'm saying I'm leaning that to being UB win. So I think there's at least 3 more wins left on this UB schedule for sure, which would get you to 7 wins. You split Ohio and Eastern Michigan. It's a toss-up if you're going to be going to the MAC championship or not. You beat Ohio. I think you got a good chance going forward of possibly representing. On the flip side, Ohio wins this, they'll be 3-1.
Yeah,
they'll tiebreaker against you. And Ohio's schedule has a lot of cupcakes remaining on it as well, with their tough game being Toledo and Eastern Michigan. So both UB and Ohio have Eastern Michigan remaining, but Ohio has Toledo. So I think what's going to happen, Maniac, being honest, I think you're going to see a multiple team tiebreaker for one of these spots in the championship game. And it's just going to come down to head to head and common opponents and stuff like that. And who knows how it's going to play out. The good news for UB, they already beat 2 of the better teams.
I was going to say the head to head is in our direction right now for sure.
But
we would take the head to head as is. Yeah.
This is going to be another one of those games that.
Yeah, it's absolutely a breaking point. You said it yourself. If Ohio's 3-1 in the conference with a tiebreaker over UB, you're not going to catch them. You'd have to go 2 games better over the remaining 4 games. It basically would be impossible.
Yeah, so this one will be interesting. I want to talk a little bit about I talked a little already about my dilemma, but I want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll make predictions and we'll head out in just a few minutes. For those that missed the beginning of the show, I graduated from Ohio University in 2013. I grew up in Buffalo, was a diehard UB fan before I ever went to Ohio. It's kind of funny how it all played out. I never actually thought I was going to go to Ohio University. It just kind of played out that way. I was a UB fan when Ohio gave us the most heartbreaking loss in the MAC tournament finals. And what year was that? 04, 05 at the buzzer. And that still remains one of the biggest heartbreaking losses of my life, of any fan in any sport. But then I
got to tell a story. I got to tell a story real quick since you brought that up.
Okay.
I went to a UB basketball camp in 2005. Now I can't tell you the personnel because I can't remember. I was still basically a young teenager or whatever. But there were 2 kids sitting in the bleachers, and they were sitting just off to the sides of the bleachers. And all the coaches said, "Everybody into the bleachers! We're about to have them start the day or whatever." And the 2 kids didn't move. And the coach asked the 2 kids to move again, and they said, "We're right here. There's no difference." And when I tell you that the coach went on a 90-second diatribe about talking about the difference between 1 inch and 2 with that last play in that MAC final game with the ball hanging on the rim and whatever. You could feel the blood pressure, dude. I swear to God, I would not make this. This is a core memory, and it stuck with me. He's like, "So don't tell me about the difference between 1 to 2 inches. When you're working for a full season and the ball's hanging on the rim." I don't think anyone thought he had a meltdown, but it was absolutely a meltdown. It was hysterical. If I saw a picture of the coach, I could tell you which one it was. But an amazing memory with that amazing heartbreak, of course.
I still get angry about it. Dick Vitale afterwards was like, "UB should have been an at-large team. They got robbed." And I was like, damn, we kind of made it in a way where they're talking about UB basketball on ESPN, but who knew it would be another decade before UB would end the drought and finally get to the NCAA tournament. But moral of the story, this is always a tough game for me because I love both schools a lot. And I try not to post too much about Ohio or the Bobcats anymore, just to not offend the UB fans that follow me, because I really do care a ton for UB basketball just as much as I care about for Ohio. And I want to see both programs be great. And I'm excited about where UB football is heading, and hopefully the basketball teams can continue some of the momentum and surprise some people this offseason. But I will be down in Athens. I will give updates pregame, during halftime, and postgame. So while I'm not covering it, expect a lot on bullet points. It's not going to be biased. We're gonna have a fun time. We're still gonna be pro UB on the account. So I hope everybody tunes in for that, and can't wait for an exciting game. But with that being said, Maniac.
Yeah, no, it better be unbiased. I don't want to see any compliments on a beautiful pass from Ohio ends up in the end zone. No, I don't want to see any of that. It better be straight as an arrow, right down the middle, Bunty.
Yeah, no, like, oh my God, Parker Navarro with the greatest run you'll ever see.
Yeah, you have to give credit for that play. No, we don't have to give any credit for any play, Bunty.
Well, like, here's the thing: we already have dealt with these other internal conflicts with like Canisius, St. Bonaventure, Niagara. With me trying to like I remember when like bullet points was at its peak during Nate Oates, where like all of you guys were hating on Bonaventure, and I'm like, guys, like, I'm pulling for UB, but like, I don't hate St. Bonaventure. I like them, and we'd have fights, and oh God, great group chat.
Oh my God, Al had to travel with security to Olean because like they were gonna attack him. It was crazy.
Dude, that's a true feeling though. I've gone to Olean as like an opposing fan, like for Ohio and.
Yeah, listen. I'll say what you want. Bonnie fans are legit. That is a raucous fan base that will eat you alive.
One final thing I will say before making the pick about how I would tweet and everything like this. There was a UB game against Ohio. I think it was like 2 years ago. No, it 3 years ago, 3 seasons ago, because I had UB season tickets that year before it was an in-between year where I wasn't covering them. And Ohio's quarterback at the time, he was horrible, but he actually, I think, made the league because he was an athlete and he was a runner, had a 99-yard touchdown run against UB. And if that ever did happen on Saturday, I would be like, from the bullet points account, lucky touchdown run by the Bobcats quarterback. I wouldn't be doing, holy shit, can you believe what you just saw? But Maniac, with that being said, let's make our picks. How do you have this game playing out on Saturday?
Okay, if I'm Sean Dolak, I am literally like, you cannot get me back out on that field soon enough. Punt. I am telling you right now, Sean Dolak over 15 tackles on Saturday. Give me UB squeaking one out against your Bobcats. It's actually, this is how crazy me, 20-18.
So I really don't want to make a prediction, Maniac, if you can let me off the hook. And
I'll let you off the hook. You can be Kirk Herbstreit in this sense, since you will be covering at the game. Like, we can't have fans attacking bunt because they pick one way or the other. I think that's totally fair.
I'll do the Kirk Herbstreit and give my analysis. I think this is going to be a close game. It's going to be in the low 20s, in my opinion, maybe high teens. The team that finds a way to finish their drives for 6 a few times will find a way to get the win. If I had to say where I think I'm leaning, I give Ohio a slight advantage. I think the 6 points is a lot in this game. I'd probably pick UB with the points, so I don't think Ohio's going to cover that. I think this is going to be a very, very tight game that could go either way.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly, and looking very much forward to your unbiased coverage this weekend.
Well, as long as the Wi-Fi is good. I don't know if you knew this. I couldn't even send texts at UB Stadium last Saturday. It was very disappointing from my perspective. I couldn't give updates during the game or anything. And a high-scoring game like that, I couldn't even show replays. No service at all. So hopefully that gets fixed at UB, or maybe I just got to change my coverage. But Maniac, appreciate you joining along. Everyone that tuned in tonight, hopefully the Bulls put on.
Oh, by the way, real quick, Alabama falls to Tennessee last week, allowing 24 points in the last 25 minutes of the game.
What's happened to the defense, Maniac?
What happened to that defense, Bunt? I'm just wondering. I'm honestly wondering.
who's at Alabama now? That I feel like there's someone at Alabama that you.
But I'm just telling you that Alabama did not used to allow 24 points in the last 21 minutes of a game. You know, I don't know. I just feel like that didn't used to happen. But I don't know. I don't know what the difference could be, honestly.
I mean, the Crimson Tide never used to lose to Vanderbilt either, and then someone arrived there.
Something is broken with Alabama, but I'm telling you what, Bun, we're gonna figure it out. We are gonna figure out what's wrong. We're like, if we have to do some more research, we're gonna figure out what's wrong with Alabama.
I gotta do some investigating to see if they have a new defensive coordinator there, or someone tied with the defense somehow, because it feels very UB like in recent years. So
yeah, hate to see that.
Do some digging on that, but appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. It's going to be a fun one on Saturday. Make sure to keep tuned to Trainwreck and Bullet Points. Let's go.
Go Bulls. Let's go.